Here is the self-assessment worksheet that can help you to determine whether or not you are eligible for the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. And today we're going to look at the different factors that determines your EOI score. The expression of interest ranking system applies to pathways under the skilled worker stream and the international education stream for the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. Submitting an expression of interest EOI is your first step to immigration to Manitoba through the PNP. An EOI is not an application, but it's an online profile, and anyone interested in applying to the MPNP must submit an EOI. Candidates complete a series of questions online and receive EOI ranking points based on the provided answers. Your profile is then entered in a pool of all the eligible candidates. The MPNP invites the highest scoring candidates in the pool to submit a full application to the MPNP, and that happens on a regular basis. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most important aspects of the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program, and that is calculating your points for the EOI. Understanding how to calculate your points is crucial because it determines your chances of receiving a letter of advice to apply for the full Provincial Nominee Program to the province. So let's dive in. Step 1 is understanding the MPNP EOI system. The EOI system is points-based and applicants are ranked in a pool. Points are awarded based on 6 different factors. That's age, language proficiency, work experience, education, adaptability, and risk. The higher your score is, the better your chances of receiving an invitation from the province to submit a full application. Now, the factors that determine your score, we're going to look at those 6 factors, and we're going to start with the language proficiency. Now, guys, information on immigration is not scarce. What it is a lot. And so I'm using the research as well as lived experience to bring the info in a way that's easy to understand, hopefully. So rest assured, all the resource links used will be placed in the description for your reference. So let's look at the breakdown. So for the language proficiency, the points are based on the Canadian language benchmark. Band scores for the 4 different skill areas such as the reading, the writing, listening, and speaking. So you can see if you achieve CLB 3 or lower, there is 0 points awarded. And you can see for the different areas here, CLB 7 or higher, you can see the corresponding amount of points that you will get for that. Now, when you look here, you will see second official language. Let's explain that. What if you have English as your official language, but you're also proficient in French? You would have to take a CLB language benchmark test to show that you have proficiency, which is CLB 5 or higher. If the opposite is true, what if you are your first language is French? If you want to score as a second language in English, you would have to also take an English proficiency test. So that's how you're able to get points for your official second language. So the second factor is age. Points are based on your age at the time of your expression of interest submission. So once you submit your profile, whatever age you were, you will be getting points based on that. If you look at this chart, you can see that between the ages of 21 to 45 years, that's when you're able to cup the most points. And then if you're 18 up to 20, you will see the different points. If you're 46 to 49, you will see the different points. If you're 50 or older, then no points for that. If you're nearing 45, of course, you need to apply as soon as possible so that you can maximize your points in this category. So that's the second factor, and that has to do with your age. The third factor is work experience. Points are based on years of full-time work experience in the context of Canada. That is defined as 30 hours or more each week for the same employer. You are not supposed to round up the years. So if you say, for example, have 1 year and 11 months worth of work experience, then you only have 1 year worth of experience, okay? If you have 2 years and X months, then you only have 2 years experience because you're not supposed to round up your work experience. You can claim 100 additional points for having some form of certification or licensing that is fully recognized by the provincial licensing body if you are working in a profession or trade that requires licensing in Manitoba. And the maximum you can get in this category is 175 points. Next factor having to do with education. So points are based on the highest level of education that you have completed at a recognized educational institution for which you have received a certificate, a diploma, or a degree. For the MPNP, these credentials don't necessarily need to be assessed. You will still be allocated your points even if those credentials are not assessed. However, if it is for express entry, if you plan to do express entry and you want to secure points for those education outside of Canada, then you will only get points if you have evaluated your education. So you can see here master's degree 125, post-secondary programs of at least 2 years each. You can see the maximum points for a factor 4 education is 125 points, and that's if you have a master's or doctorate degree. Now let's look at the next factor for the MPNP, which has to do with adaptability. The maximum points in this category is 500 points. This category rewards connections to Manitoba. Adaptability points are based on the type of connection you have to the province of Manitoba. All candidates must have at least one type of connection to the province. If you have more than one type of connection, you will receive adaptability points on your highest scoring connection. And so you can see for close relative, you will see the breakdown here. When you look here for the Manitoba demand, and that having to do with ongoing employment in Manitoba for 6 months or more with at least a year job offer for the same employer. And that alone will give you 500 points. If this is not your reality, then you need to establish connection in other areas. However, the maximum you can get is 500. So if this is your reality, you would have copped the 500 anyway. If this is not your reality, then you'd have to make up points elsewhere. Okay, so that's the adaptability factor. The next factor is risk assessment. Now, risk factors are based on connections you have to other parts of Canada. You must answer yes to any question related to connections or applications to other provinces in Canada if they apply to you or your spouse if applicable. Now, points are deducted for having connections to another province. If you worked or if you had studied, then you would lose. If both applies, you would lose 200 points. If one applies, then you would lose 100 points. So those are the risk factors where you can literally lose points depending on your circumstances. If you have close relative or if you had previous immigration application to another province, then you won't lose any points, but you also don't gain any points. And remember, you have to be truthful. If you were asked, you must be truthful because they can know if you misrepresented. Now, once you have looked at the factors that determine your EOI score, step 3 is for you to add up all the points from all the categories to get your EOI score. You can refer to the MPNP self-assessment sheet, which I'll show you shortly after you have added all the points. And then you can compare your score with recent draw cutoffs to assess your chances. So this is the MPNP EOI ranking grid that we have just gone through. I've just, put the information, but this is the reference link and I will link it in the description. So once you have gone through and you have tallied up your points, you can then put it in this self-assessment grid. I will also link this self-assessment grid in the description. And you will note here, it says that all applicants must complete the MPNP self-assessment worksheet. And it says, except applicants who are currently working in Manitoba. Instructions: determine your points for each of the 5 factors. Note that all applicants must have a connection to Manitoba under Factor 5, which is the adaptability, which we have gone through. If you do not have a connection to Manitoba, you are not eligible to apply, regardless of your points total. Your worksheet is a required document with your application. For an application to be accepted for consideration, you must score at least 60 points. If you score less than 60 points in the MPNP self-assessment worksheet, you are not eligible to apply. So bear this in mind. You need to score at least 60 points in this self-assessment worksheet. And you will note that for each of the different factors, for example, the maximum points, here you will see it's 25. Don't get that confused. It just representing 25% of your totals. Also for factor 2, which is age, they have 10% of the total. For work experience, it's 15, that's the highest. It's 15% of the total. Education, 25%. And this is where, here at the bottom, where you have the self-assessment worksheet, this is where you would enter the points that you have received here, and then it will give you your total. For example, for adaptability, you enter whatever you got here. For education, do likewise, work experience, age, language, and then that will tell you your self-assessment total based on the information that you have entered. Again, these are here to guide your decision. That's the maximum points that you can have in the pool. That's 1,000. And likewise for this link, I will leave it in the description as well. These are all valuable information that can help your process in determining 1, your eligibility, and 2, the score that you have, and see where you match up with other candidates that are in the pool. On a regular basis, the highest scoring candidates drawn from the pool are selected, and you receive a letter of advice to apply to the province, wherein which now everything that you have answered, all the questions you have answered in your expression of interest profile, you will now submit a full application and providing the documents to substantiate all of those claims. So there you have it, just a quick guide to how you can calculate your points for the MPNP expression of interest. Remember, every point counts, so focus on areas where you can improve. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, as that does help other persons to find the information based on the YouTube algorithm. And subscribe to the channel, please, to help grow the channel so that I can keep providing tips on MPNP and Canada immigration overall. If you have questions about your EOI score or the application process, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to help. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. As usual, leave your comments, questions, or suggestions.